I see live.
So it is live. And so I think we can just take, if we wanted to invite other people, we could take this link and send it to people or like post it on Twitter and be like,
Okay.
hey, everybody, like come listen and like watch us on YouTube or something like that. And so I
Okay.
think now that if, theoretically it should be a system that is functional and designed for this specific purpose. And people have been like, you know what we can do? Just play some Dungeons and Dragons with this technology.
Yeah, actually, it was funny. I was chatting with Aaron actually earlier,
Mm.
and he actually was wondering about us running a game for,
Donk.
the kids. Some of the Canada stuff. Was that your phone?
Yeah. I'm just gonna mute that and tell Darcy I'll help her unload the bookcase after she gets home, or after we're done.
Okay.
She's on her way home, but we're not going to be. I mean, we're going to be talking about 5 questions. We're going to take as long as it needs, but
Yeah, but it shouldn't be too bad.
it shouldn't take forever. Okay. Let's see. Starting.
Yeah, and I could just pull this off of YouTube no matter what, and then re-edit it and put the intro on it and that type of thing. So,
Yeah, I wonder if we could even. I guess I theoretically could test that.
dude, I can rip shit from YouTube, no problem.
Yeah, but I guess
We
we could theoretically take this thing and open it and see. Try it. So if we just open up YouTube or just place this in here, where do you go? Okay, so it takes you to Google Hangouts on Air. Got it. Okay, so that directly takes you to the Hangout, and so you can watch it and you can join it. That's cool. I'm not sure quite how to get to the YouTube/my video. We should just talk.
It's probably going to come out on your video on your YouTube channel.
Yeah, and
Do
I
you
think it
have a
happens
YouTube?
after we stop the recording.
Yeah, that's going to
Or
happen
something like
after
that.
we
Yeah,
stop
that's
the
what the
recording.
other thing is. We'll
And
figure
then
it out.
just send me the URL and I'll pull it off.
Great.
And then, clean it up and do the things that I do with stuff, intros and whatnot.
Yeah. Okay, so Darcy spoken to. We got a camera. Fucking A. So
All right.
I got a big mic in front of my face, but you can still kind of see me. I guess I'll sit up, or maybe I'll there we go. It's a little better. I can switch. So do you, on your side of the screen, are you on the big one?
No, you're on the big one for me. Yeah.
Okay. What about now?
I can't tell.
Okay.
No, you're still on the big one.
Okay. What about now?
No, you're
Okay.
still on the big one.
Excellent. So
I think it's just you as the moderator.
yeah. Okay. Excellent. And so Audacity looks good. I'm not too high. Yep. And good. Okay. So welcome to the Axon. No. So I guess yeah. Let's just kind of start talking. Let's say we've got our 5 questions written out.
Yeah, like do a basic intro.
Yeah. I'll be happy to do that. And yeah, and then we can all we'll do that. You can say we'll have you kind of say hi a little bit, and then we'll go, and then I'll say again, like, cool. I'll
let you moderate.
I am the moderator. Okay, so all right, we're fine. Okay, so we're going live. So I'm so composed. Okay,
it's been a day for both of us. It's okay.
It has, but you got to get to sleep too. So we're gonna rock this. So that's another thing that keeps us on this. So great. So Hey everyone, welcome to the Axon Punk podcast. I am Colin Kyle, co-designer of Axon Punk. We've got my brother here, Cameron Kyle as well. And thank you all so much for being here. We are thrilled to give you a little quick intro to the game, who we are, and what we're trying to go for tonight. But that's basically the idea.
Hi, I'm Cameron Kyle, the co-creator of this game with my wonderful brother here. We have 5 basic points that we're going to address this evening, just about our game, how this project kind of came about, and what we're doing, with our plans, our current plans and our plans for the future.
Excellent. Well said. And so the game, as I said, is Axon Punk Overdrive. And it is, as some of you may know, it is a narrativist cyberpunk game. And so it is a tabletop role-playing game in the same vein as Dungeons and Dragons and other similar games like that. And we are designing this. We've decided to just rip out everything and start from scratch and build our own game, since we've been making games since we were little kids. And so it's been a work of love and growth for both of us, and we're really happy to be here. So we're going to tell you a little bit more about the game in a second, but just for a quick little get to know you, because RPGs are it's a personal industry. We want to get to know you guys as our fans and as our friends, and we want you guys to get to know us because this is something we really love and we want to take it seriously. So I'm Colin, and I live in Chicago. I live in Hyde Park, which is where the University of Chicago is. I graduated, I got my PhD there from there last summer. And I've been doing science and biology for the last 10 years or so. My focus has been ecology, specifically this ecological modeling. And I've focused on the spread of infectious disease, and so I've done a lot of epidemiological kind of things. But I also love science fiction. I love playing games. I love fantasy. We grew up playing these things. We'll tell you a little bit more about that in a little bit. But that's my quick elevator speech. Let Cameron tell you about him.
Yeah, Colin does a good elevator speech. Okay, so my name is Cameron. I have a BFA in multimedia and photography. I'm getting a 3rd degree in video game design and 3D animation from Richland College, where I am also a staff member. We've been playing games since we managed to pull Dungeons and Dragons 1st edition red box set out of an old game store called Games Galore in Arlington, Texas. And I'm actually currently located in Dallas, Texas, Richardson specifically, but Dallas proper. And we spent a lot of time. I was about 8 years old. Colin was about 6 when we started playing D&D, as well as later Call of Cthulhu, different things like that. And we were constantly losing books, having books removed from us, and having to rewrite our games and adjust the rules for people. So many house rules and incarnations of that have come. And we actually were lucky enough to have one of the longest running games. Our high school game ran for about 4 years. And then a Star Wars D20 game that we really, really love is still currently going on. And that has been going for 8 years.
Yeah, that's the one though. Yeah, that one's ridiculous. But we really love Star Wars. We love science fiction. We drew a lot from the Star Wars universe, as well. Even though it's not cyberpunk, I think it's a nice example of good sci-fi, which will lead us into our the next point, which is a little bit more detail about the specifics of the game and kind of what inspired us and what led us to build this, Frankenstein skeletal monster thing that we have created. And so like I said, it's cyberpunk, and we kind of want the old school kind of classic cyberpunk, specifically William Gibson and the Neuromancer and the Sprawl trilogy, just to give you a quick thing. But it's really, it goes kind of abroad across decades, and it's really not limited just to the 80s. And so we love the PK Dick and the Heinlein, and more modern things as well. Great things like Ghost in the Shell has specifically been a very important part of our process, something we saw very young and very formative. And we want it to be to have that tech. It's a very rules light game and very improv heavy, but we want tech, we want grit, we want a near future dystopian world where we are drawing heavily on what is happening in our modern world today. Because that's what good science fiction really is, and we'll talk about that more later. But I think it's great to use science fiction as a mirror that you use to look at ourselves and look at society. And so that's pretty grandiose for a tabletop role-playing game. But if you're going to do it, you do it right,
If you're going to do something, you might as well do it right.
Yeah,
it was pretty awesome. Colin came to me about 10, 11 months ago with a proposal for a modification to a game that we both really, really love called Dungeon World, which I highly recommend you guys try out. It's a wonderful narrative role-playing game. And he had done so many modifications and adjustments to the game. I looked at it, and he actually came with a PowerPoint that was pretty awesome. So one day maybe we'll show you guys that. And so I was like, well, you've already adjusted like 40 to 60% of this game. Why don't we just build a game like from the ground up, from the bones? I was lucky enough to really have some wonderful influences and some wonderful professors. Bruce Barnes is an ex-Disney animator. He actually went through the Disney and animation process, which is actually the process that we use to create our game. As well as Chris Cura, which is the head of the Richland video game department for us. So we're actually using the professional gaming pipeline that Gearbox uses, that id uses, that EA uses. We're lucky enough to have exposure to those video game professionals, as well as, a lot of time with us as children making games work. One of my original issues was remembering how difficult THATCO was. This was TSR way back in the day, and how difficult it was to calculate THATCO for a 10-year-old. And I think that was one of the first rule adjustments we ever made. Yeah, THATCO. If you remember that, you are old, but that's okay.
Yeah, well, I love me some THATCO. Now that I can understand it, I love me some second edition. But that's a different type of game. And we are in kind of a gaming renaissance these days. And so there are tons of games being made all the time now, and it's wonderful and it's beautiful. And so you can really pick kind of what flavor you want, what level of crunch, as they say, which is rules, complexity, and granularity. And so we wanted to have a game that was scalable, but really a big thing is we just want to play a game. We were kids, we just want to play a game. And we like thinking, and we like it to have puzzles and have parts, but we wanted to have something that people could just dive into right away. And that's one of the things that I really love about Dungeon World and the Apocalypse World systems out there, is that they're so story-driven that they care more about the story and the characters that you guys are playing and what you're actually doing, more so than kind of what the rules are actually doing. They add structure, and they give you knobs to pull and things to twist and turn. But also, I think a lot of what we really did, we mentioned Call of Cthulhu beforehand, but Call of Cthulhu is a huge and important influence to our game, because that's what, that's the holy grail of RPGs. It's good.
In our opinion, I really think that both of us, if we had to pick, if we were stuck on a desert island and we got one role-playing game that we were allowed to play, one complete system and the dice for it,
yep,
yeah, that would be the one. It's one book. It's less than 30 minutes to build a character. You can bust out a 2 hour to an hour and a half session with little problem, and it's just so narrative. So I love it. So
yeah. It's so good. And so I think that's where we drew a lot of inspiration from. Not worrying about just so many things, but having that be kind of a core, and really liking the percentile system. It's so people say, oh, it's a lot of numbers, but I think it's really intuitive, and everyone knows what this scale is. And so we use a 100-point system, and I think that's important. It's important to part of what we want. We like Cameron mentioned video games, and he's learning video games design. We've made a lot of what I think are really conscious decisions to try and make sure that everything is tied in and everything has a place. And if it's spare fat, we cut it out. And so I think we've got, like I said, a skeleton that you take and you add your own meat to it, and you take it and you grab it, and you send it running, and you see where it goes, and you just strap on and play. And so our game is very improv-y. It has a lot of improv focus, which we will get to in a second. I'm getting ahead of myself.
Oh no, you're good.
I know.
I think
yeah,
Call of Cthulhu. I apologize. I think that that's the way it is. We've definitely subscribed to the art and scientific aspect of that. The form of the game must follow the function, or the function must follow the form. I apologize. The function must follow the form, because, did I do that wrong? I apologize.
It's form follows function.
Yeah, form follows function.
Yeah.
Did I mention I was dyslexic? Gotta love that. But yes, there isn't a lot of meat on it. And though percentile dice games people have a lot of issue with, the way I always explain it is it's just as simple as a grading system when we were in elementary school. You either succeed, by 100%, you understand the D, C, B, and A ratings for how you succeed at something. So if you succeed with an A, it's pretty awesome. If you succeed with a D, it doesn't always work out so well, but it gives a gradation, which we had a discussion earlier. Cyberpunk is really wonderful, having that grit dystopian sci-fi as comparatively to a more hard sci-fi. In Star Wars you have a light side and a dark side, and in Star Trek you have this Roddenberry-esque utopia. Gibson, Akira, Ghost in a Shell, Snow Crash, Heinlein, Blade Runner. Yeah, of course the Philip K. Dick. You gotta love it. It's not clean. It's a graniation, and we like the graniation. That's just something. Yeah,
and I think that's super good, and I think that will lead us in nicely to kind of wrapping up this section, and because those are some of the really core references that we wanted to learn from. We wanted to take these worlds, we wanted to build our own, which we'll get to here in a second, but Cameron calls it the Viking mentality of art, and it's also what you do in science, but it's, you show up and you learn from them, and you take their stuff and you build from it, and
that quote's one of my lectures when I lecture in art school. They say good artists borrow, great artists steal. I say exemplary artists are like art Vikings. You roll your art longboat up to the art shore, and you take everything from the art village that is usable, and you put it on your boat, and then you go to the next shore. No idea is original. You're constantly taking, constantly borrowing. That's really important. We, as a good friend and one of the players that plays on our beta test says, Shannon Greer, he actually says, we stand upon the shoulders of the giants that came before us. It's a
Absolutely.
really good quote.
Yeah, that's a key quote. And so I think, being upfront with that, because that's what we're here to do. We're not here to, we're here to learn. We say steal, but we're here to take and stand upon, and acknowledge who we learn from. Because that's important. Because we are not trying to pass off any bullshit on people. I genuinely think we bring unique and worthwhile perspective to things, but also read everyone else's sci-fi because it's good too. And I think that also brings up what I wanted to also many of the more we reference a lot of classic sci-fi and classic cyberpunk, but we also have a lot of really modern influences that I think are very essential. And like we said, we roll up and we take everything. And I think, thinking about, even what's going on, in the 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s, but also in the 2000s, also in what is happening this day right now in sci-fi and in cyberpunk. And so I'm a huge hip hop fan personally. Music is also huge, and I think it's for all of us as well. But we mentioned video games and bring these other things in. But I think understanding kind of what is going on with hip hop and a lot of the sci-fi, space age, cool, futuristic Afrofuturism that is out there, like Deltron 3030, like Eric Badu, like your P-Funk, to go all the way back, and all these outcasts, and I could just go on all day just to name a handful, and to reference some of the classics. But this day, Saul Williams put out a cyberpunk album, Martyr Loser King, which you should listen to right now if you haven't heard it, because that came out this year, and that is the freshest cyberpunk and the grittiest, the rawest stuff. You haven't heard anything like this in forever. And and I think we've got to acknowledge that and acknowledge where that fresh blood is. And especially, I want to acknowledge the queen of cyberpunk that is happening today, the Arcandroid herself, Janelle Monáe. Because her, she has these 3-album concept, multiple section, multiple suite story, and it's and so these are having that beat, having that pulse, because we want to have this mega urban, hyper urban, because that's where society and that's where the earth is marching towards. I can pull out the plots for you. We are marching towards urbanization. That's where we're going to be. And we want our game to be set 70 years in the future, in the 2080s. And so, we got to understand what's going on now to extrapolate to the future. And so I think having strong music influences, the music of the people in the cities, is a big thing. And so that's a whole bunch. And but I wanted to rant about that because I think it's really important. And I think that's, I write to a lot, while listening to music, and these are things that are powerful, and speak to people and speak to a broader audience than you just get with Dungeons and Dragons, and just get with having to have this, big stack of background knowledge. So I ranted for a while, and I feel really good about it. So I think that is, we could go on about references, but let's bring that into the world, onto the next phase. And so we are learning from all these wonderful influences that I mentioned, and we are then taking, and we're not rebooting, because like I said, classic cyberpunk never stopped. It's still going. And so we are just continuing and kind of re-engineering and adding in our own flavor and influence, and input, and that's the word. And so we, like Cameron said, we were making games and learning how to play games when we were little kids, and we've been doing that, and it's been a huge part of our life. And little did I know that I could try and make a career out of this, and take this full time and seriously, because that's what I'm doing. I ain't got no day job now.
Yeah.
And but we are building this world, and so we want to build a universe that there's no fat, where things line up exactly with our rules and with where the form is meeting the function, and that is badass cyberpunk all day every day. And so I wanted to take, to use a really good reference that I feel really strongly about, is to reference one of my absolute favorite authors, which is Ursula K. Le Guin. She's so brilliant, and may she never die. And but she wrote a super influential book for me, which was The Left Hand of Darkness. And before that, she has this foreword, and it's like, oh, read the foreword, and read the foreword, because it tells you how to write good science fiction, theoretically. And if she can do it in 25 pages, then she did. And it tells you her vision on what is good science fiction, and her vision on how to build a beautiful thought experiment of science fiction. And so the idea is to take, like I said, science fiction as a mirror upon society. And so you take our world and you build a mirror of it, and you tweak something fundamental, and you make a key change, and that radiates throughout the rest of the world and causes other changes that you didn't expect. And you kind of explore this thought experiment, and but you keep it focused, and you keep it structured and simple. But also, society has enough complexity. You don't need to throw everything into your experiment. Keep it simple and do it right. And so with her view, with The Left Hand of Darkness, it's what happens, if humans were transported to a ice-covered planet. If they could survive, how would they do it? And they have really fascinating ways to do it. And there are many other good examples of this. We mentioned Star Wars. That's space cowboys. That's the classic spaghetti western in space. We could talk about that all day. But this idea of having a clear vision where we are not going to get too caught up on other tangent time. And for our game, our big twist, our big focus is the idea of what happens if you could connect a human brain to a computer. That's the question. And take that idea, take that technology, and radiate it out. How does it change entertainment? How does it change the internet? How does it change, you name it? How does it change going to the bathroom? How does it change making a cup of coffee in the morning? Once we want to play 70 years in the future, where the technology is entrenched and is distributed all over the world and has steeped into every corner of society. And so that's the world that we are building upon and that we are playing with. What happens if you can have these digital neural connections, and you can download someone's thoughts? You can read them real time. You can write without using your hands or your eyes. You don't need these trappings, and kind of play with this transhuman, open world, dystopian, scary, terrifying in many, many ways. Lack of filter that we are just, brushing against right now. We are many, many scientific breakthroughs away from that. I've talked to a lot of neuroscientists about that, but someday, and I think it will be the next phase in computing. And, we can talk about quantum computers too, but also brain connections are important. And so that's my big rant right now. So Cameron, how about I hand it over to you so you can talk about the world a little bit, or what your thoughts are on the game. Well, okay. You gave me time to think about things beforehand. I took a shower, and I was like, "This is what I want to say." Okay.
No, I'm really glad. I love our brother. He's wonderful. It's great to hear what he has to say, and I appreciate his enthusiasm and excitement, because these are definitely issues and things that we do really want to discuss. The concept of transhuman, the concept of what is sentience, what is the line of being sentient? I feel like my dog is sentient, and I adore her. I mean, she's wonderful. So what happens when my computer gets there? I mean, just because I built that thing, when does it get the same rights my dog does? That's also a valid question, which was actually addressed in a really cool Next Generation Star Trek episode that I really appreciate, where Geordi dealt with that as an engineer, with bots that had actually maintenance bots that had the ability to be sentient. But I think you gotta love Geordi. I think we're just massive science fiction fans, and I feel like many games have come very, very close to this, and I feel like there are a lot of games out there. We've had this Star Wars, D20 game that we've run for 8 years, and we've run into a lot of issues, where we constantly rewrote the rules to deal with things. It felt like it was produced incomplete, and they tried to update it with the Saga Edition, and it still felt incomplete. We wanted something that was not so vast it would try and be everything, but we wanted something that would give gritty science fiction, from everything from the original 1984 Robert Heinlein stuff that was written in the 50s, referencing just, Starship Troopers, aliens. We want Blade Runner. We want Philip K. Dick. We want things that are just as current as the Ghost in the Shell movies that just came out this year and last year, with Rise, which are excellent stuff. Akira, which is one of our personal favorites. There are so many different things. I'm lucky enough to get to spend a lot of time with and have a good friend of mine named Mike Morris, who is an exceptional video and synth artist. So I get to spend a lot of time with him, with new wave programming for synthesizers that do autonomic sound and visual feedback. They create things based upon the environment in which they're placed. So that's a really, really interesting thing. I think that's going to progress. Yeah, it's going to progress forward into a major, major thing, which is also something we've addressed in a game, with the possibility of having VR, music, and different things like that. Music is exceptionally important to both Colin and I, to the point of having 800 or 900 records, hardbound.
Cameron's gonna make. He made the music that started at the beginning of this podcast.
We're gonna try and produce as much music and as much art as we can within this, but we're being very careful about what concepts we actually put out. We want to have a very uniform, very polished look. But I feel like we're maintaining.
Our players are happy.
People seem happy.
The people seem happy.
Yeah, it's like I said, one of my best mentors told me that you're never going to be perfect, but you can be excellent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we are not wasting time. We said this in our creation process. We're not wasting time on diminishing returns.
Yes,
we do a lot of broad strokes, and we're making something big. And so that leads us, so we have a structure for a plan for the world, a plan for the economy. We've really tried to build this universe and make it extremely global. And we really care about that because good cyberpunk is super global. I mean, that's, like we said, the march towards urbanization, the march towards globalization, these terrifying globalization of mega corporations and multinational corporations, where human rights are secondary to profit. And so, these are the reflections of our society that we want to take and extrapolate along this vector of brains connected to computers, because that's what everything is tied into. And so we've got an idea for our internet, what we call the net, which is really essential to tie the world of the digital in with the world of the physical. And because the whole thing about our game is playing with this connection between, what is real, what is fake, what is a computer program, and what is playing with these borders and the bleeding edge of science fiction and science, where it is reckless and dangerous. And yes, and so we put a lot of work into solving. So far it hasn't been a problem for us. You can check us, but we've had really good work not having a problem of like the Decker problem or the hacker problem. I'll say it again: Cyberpunk without a Decker problem. And because we've put a lot of effort into layering, using this connection to the digital world and the physical world, which is so close, with these brain scanned humans, which are ghosts, these AIs, like you get in the classic Gibson or like you get in Ghost in the Shell, where they are manipulating objects in the physical world while doing things in the internet. And we have, everything is just very closely related and bleeding over constantly. And we also have the importance of, we have this digital replica of the physical world. It's kind of this Google Maps of the digital world. It's like an augmented reality where you can then layer things on. And, when you cruise around in the net, you can see the physical world, and it brings that localness, that closeness, which is going to be needed to keep this world going. Because as much as as powerful as the global corporations are, they still need people. So you need the masses, and there is this constant push and pull between the two that we really want to get into. But we have this overlay. And so, when the hacker is breaking down the firewall to get into the bank that you guys are going to rob, his net address is the physical address of our world. You know what I'm saying? And so, the ghost is there with them. And so the ghost is going to be like, all right, you get that wall down. I'm going to jump into their security terminal and then, go into their, video cameras and take out their turrets, and we are going to go immediately from the digital world into the real world where everyone is playing at the same time and no one is bored.
Yeah, there is no separation between our digital world and our real world. They are intertwined completely. It's actually really nice. I like to think of it from a game designer standpoint or a level designer standpoint, is that the real world works like a very well refined sci-fi RPG with a dystopian feeling, and then the net, moving through the net, works like a survival horror dystopian feel.
Supernatural feel, like that spirit world.
Yeah, it's a different, it's a disembodied world. It's a darker world. It has layers and deeps. Maybe a good example would be the difference between land and the ocean and Earth. Both things are existing at the exact same time. Both things are occurring at the exact same time. What happens under the seas and above in the air, they both severely impact each other and are necessary to form an ecosystem. And that is what this is. It's a digital binary. We actually represented it in a triangle to show the 3 points. There's a link between the organic, the hardware, and the digital, and those flow together. But these are the Triforce, if you will. Been playing a lot of Zelda lately. Triforce of the system. They're the 3 pillars that make up the world: the organic, the hardware, and the digital. They can't exist without each other.
Yeah. And so that's, that's the structure of our game. You know, take that, add 5 character classes and a combat system, you know, you're ready to go.
A serious combat system. That
Serious
combat system, yeah, it makes me really happy.
Which
One
leads
of
us to
my
our next part of our the fourth section, where we talk about, you know, kind of why you guys should care about our game and kind of what separates us a little bit from, you know, other people. We're not here to hate on anyone. We are here to learn from people, and we are here to grow. That's how this works.
Yeah, what are our rules?
Yeah.
What is unique to our game?
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Yeah. So, I'm the MC. I'm in charge. And so like I said, the key thing, the front runner of our game is the idea of improvisation. And so we talked about how we care about, you know, we're here to play a game, and we are here to talk more about the story we're telling. You know, my roommate likes to say the words collaborative storytelling. You know, this is an art form. He takes it very seriously, and he really should. And we all do, in a fun way, but in a way of doing it just like any art or sport. And so we take, you know, we care about, you know, I like to say to my players when you know, here's your character sheet, you know, it's, you know, or it's 2 sheets of papers or one single front and back piece of paper, but, you know, here's everything you need to know. You know, this is everything about your character. It's got your name, all your class abilities, all your gear, everything done. And so you can read that. It's big font and lots of space. And then, or you can just ignore that and be like, hey, I know who I am. You know, my character is so-and-so. She was born here and there. She's been here for 24 years. You know, I know exactly who she is, and I know exactly what we're doing. And I just, and so our response to that is perfect. Great. Cool. You know, you are already doing what the rules are here to kind of do. And so you just tell us what you're doing, and our rules are built so that we have, so that you can do it. You know, there is a chance that you could fail, but you can try. And so we have a very simple central mechanic that loops everything in, so where you can, that calculates your probability of success. And we have, and it's basically a random chance roll, which is signified by a D100 roll. And then it is then you can add to that your natural affinity towards this task. And you can pick from one of our 6 class character ability scores. That's the word, ability scores. And you see, we're in development, bleeding edge of technology. And one of your 6 ability scores, which is like your strength or dex or whatever, we've rebranded those so they work for digital beings as well. And so it's your output for strength, and your RAM for dex, and ROM for your like memory, deep memory, and then your OS, your operating system, is your intelligence, kind of how innovative you are, and then you've got your UI, which is your user interface, which is like your charisma, and then your parts, which are your like constitution score, which tells us how many hit points you have, a number of kind of simple things that are all tied in, because we've got everything on a 100-point scale, and so everything just lines up really nicely because we've got it all unified. You know exactly what metric. Yeah, it's metric. You know, we grew up in Texas, but we are, you know, our parents are Canadian, and so we are extremely polite and very humble too. But it's metric, and so things line up really nicely. And so it's geared towards players getting right into the action, saying what they want to do, not having to worry, not having to flip through a book. And it is, so improvisation is huge. And so that's a big part of our game. And so we've got specific general improvisation. That's where you say, well, I'm a person, I can do this. And then you've got class specific improvisation, which are special skills that are geared toward each specific class. Like you are an engineer. Engineers build things, so they can build things, break things apart, do whatever they want. Slum mercs, which are kind of our street samurai class, the social mercenary kind of class, they know people, which is really powerful in the city. And so they can form connections, they can make up NPCs, non-player characters, basically on the fly. Isn't that sweet? Yeah, I know somebody at this bar. I know the waitress. She's here. She's cool. She can get us guns from the back or whatever. And and the GM says, great, writes that person into the sheet. We want you guys the GMs to play with blanks and to have the players have input into the story and then have it evolve and go like that. And so we really want to embrace that because we know you guys are going to house rule. We know you're going to take our rules and say, oh, these are really shitty. Some of this stuff's all right, but so we are not afraid of that. Open source. Once we print the books, we'll charge you for it. But right now, we just want you to play our game, and so we really want to embrace that Viking mentality of sharing. And no, Vikings don't share. That's the opposite.
What he means is, embrace the house rules. House rules is what got us to what made us want to create games in the first place. The improvisational and collaborative storytelling is a big point. And I really, really love that about the game. But there are also some really cool set points that me as a more technical game designer really, really enjoy. Things like we have group initiative, which is really, really wonderful. You guys add all of what would be your RAM score, which is your speed, like your dex, all together. And then each side adds them all together and they roll off against each other every single round. And you work as a group. That's really, really fun. I like having that. We indoctrinated that into games, I think about 3-4 years ago, and that's become a standard rule for us. We have an exhaustion mechanic that if you really, really want to make that roll, you can push yourself. That is a rule that is similar to a BattleTech mech warrior style thing, which is a completely different. Colin and I also played a bunch of tabletop war games that we really, really, really enjoyed. That wasn't...
we wasted a lot of money on them.
We wasted a lot of money, but
we didn't have.
Money we didn't have. But we made pretty things. Exhaustion mechanics are really, really wonderful. Being able to push your character because you are able to dig deep down inside yourself and push yourself past the point where you're at. And then there is the variable combat system, which is one of my preferred things. I'm lucky enough to be not to casually brag, I'm lucky enough to have studied martial arts and Chinese wushu specifically for about 14 years and have gotten 3 national golds and 2 national silvers. So I wanted a combat system that was very variable, that was punch to punch, where you could hedge your bets, where you could throw a feint and then go for a heavy haymaker for the next one. That gives you this ability that I didn't feel that we got from the flexibility of some monk classes or some classes that we encountered in Star Wars, being allowed to, in our game, you are allowed to take a negative on your first roll to position someone so you get that negative added to the bonus of the second. Similar to if you were to slash your sword in a downward motion to move that person to the right-hand side. So you have got a better position for your second attack to be horizontal. And that gives you them in a position, especially if they're against a wall, you can hedge your bets and move it that way. You can feint with one punch, so you come across with a heavier one and position them into the response that you can dictate. And it's give and take. It's not, it's not as good as making 2 successful hits, but maybe you really want that one good one. It's how you play it.
And that sets us up really nicely because, like we said, it's about the story. And so what you say, I want to go and I want to do that. I want to take that first swing. And the GM says, we have built-in little rules where the GM says, okay, cool, let's keep it balanced. It's that give and take. And so you are going to say, it's a 100-point scale. You take, minus 20 to all your rolls this round or whatever. And then you get a plus 20 next round to that attack or whatever, and you just kind of keep it structured and you keep it balanced, and you say, you know, and where everyone is communicating, and so you have it, and you can throw it back at the group too. Does that seem all right with everyone? And people understand, and you keep it logical and structured, and so it's not, you know, there's got to be a give and a take. There's got to be a loss, and so you're never pulling anything out completely. You know, yes, we're all badasses. Yes, you know, the whole point is that you're playing these like anime, sci-fi, action hero characters where hell yeah, you're doing badass stuff. Hell yeah, you got stuff that it's really turned up to be very powerful, but it's high risk, high gain. And so I think, you know, people love that because everyone fights differently, you know, and you're never going to make a rule system that makes everyone happy. And so we then, like I said, throw it back at the players, and it's really based on your storytelling, and it's based on what you can bring to the table. And, you know, how do you get better at our game? You know, you don't, you know, sure, read our books, but there's, you know, there's no system mastery. You know, what you do to get better at our game is you read Wikipedia, you watch kung fu movies, you watch sci-fi movies, you read other people's books, you listen to other people's music, you know, and then you take them and then you bring it into our game. And so it's unlimited and it's super open-ended. And so it doesn't matter who you are, what area of the world you're from, what, you know, you are a taro farmer from Indonesia, you know, all right, let's make that shit cyberpunk, you know, and
Cyber Tarot.
Cyber tarot, and the crystals are terrifying, and you'll never cook them out. No one knows that joke. But we want no barrier to playing our game. You know, everyone's like, oh, RPGs, oh, it takes so long, da da da. It's like, no, here's your character sheet, here's the dice you're going to use. Like, we are playing right now.
If you want a proof of concept, you can actually listen to our first beta test podcast, and the guys made characters from complete scratch. 5 players made it from complete scratch, generic sheets, all the way up in 30 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. and we've got it proven, and that's something that, I mean, we have it proven online for you to view audio wise, but this is something that we've, you know, Colin's experience at Gen Con, ValorCon, at Catacon. I've run at Richland at many different beta tests that beta and alpha tests that we've run through. Character creation, I don't want a whole bloody 3 hours to make it.
Right. You know, and you know, we're not trying to brag, you know, don't mistake our enthusiasm, my enthusiasm, with arrogance or anything like that. But, you know, this has been just what we've been doing, and it's our passion, you know. And so I feel really strongly about this, and that's what we've geared it towards. Like I said, we've cut out all the fat, you know, and so we know it works great for quick pickup games, quick ideas, getting people playing, and we're also testing it on a longer scale of a campaign, where we've got a setting where you can start building this neighborhood, you know, and then you can start getting into this longer story, this more full novel instead of just burning chrome shorts, and cover the whole range, you know, where we're still doing cyberpunk, where we're still doing our straight thing, but we can do a range of different stories within that structure.
We're even working on a history timeline, so you can play something as simple as like the advent of the initial birth of AI, as well as the cyber wars that we have, actually a cyber war 1 and 2. So you can play a more militarized campaign. We're working on a history timeline, because that's what we did in our Star Wars campaign, even though the expanded universe is no longer canon. And that's a whole nother thing. But the expanded universe was really, really wonderful because we had a timeline. And our rules in the Star Wars for GM, and we actually ended up with 4 different people GMing over the course of 8 years that I started. The one basic rule was you have to fit it into the timeline in a place where that's open. So you look in between 2 books, or during a battle that you're off. You know, and the entire Star Wars campaign flows through the expanded universe of Star Wars. And that was one thing that the guys really wanted to from the Star Wars campaign. They were like, man, I wish we could write this. I wish we could show and produce this content that we've spent years, weekly, bi-weekly, sometimes twice a week games, hours and hours and hours of almost a decade of our lives. That's licensed. It's licensed, and that frustrated us because we can't produce our ideas and our stories. So Colin and I came up with this, this concept that fits in with them. And some of our now current GM from the Star Wars game is beta testing. You can hear him live. Elvritron Peters, Lord Nikon III, as he calls himself, as his character name, as well as our captain from our Star Wars game, Shannon Greer, who is also playing Sam, which is our Slum Merc. You will see him again this coming Friday with another, beta test podcast. We're going to keep on going. And the nice thing about our beta test podcast that I'm really, really so proud of is everyone sitting at the table is either a professional artist, professional musician, professional musician, professional game developer, or professional web designer or programmer. Like, everyone works in their field. And we're doing this with complete and utter transparency. We want your comments. We want your feedback. I'm happy to hear. Let's do this open doors. Let us fix
we're ready.
It. Yeah.
It's not our first rodeo.
Yeah, I'm not gonna beta test behind some locked doors and pull out a product with bugs. Bethesda.
Hey. Okay, I have wasted so many days. I'm okay with that. Okay? I got no problems with Bethesda. But that is a trend. That's a trend.
If I can't whistle for my horse,
I'm gonna do this. I've been wearing it these days. Yeah, no, you'll never find your horse. You'll never find your dog. You'll lose companions. Yep, it's there. Yeah.
Best mod. I can't remember your name. Whoever made the mod for Skyrim where you can whistle for your horse, I love you. You're amazing.
Yeah. So, and so that connects us in. So I think that that covers the world and who we are and the universe, and so that connects us to and the rules. So that connects us to you, lovely people out there who are actually watching this thing. I'll switch it so you can see me, and the people who we really appreciate you guys, because we need you guys to do this, and we want to share, and we want everyone to have awesome, fun games all the time, and so we are. So we want you guys to just play and just to comment and like and do all the things that you just do normally. But we are going to have available opportunities. We're going to have in the very near future a demo starter packet that you guys could take, which is the beta test rules, which you can take and play it yourself. And so get yourself a handful of people, 2 to 5 players. We've got instructions on runs, on missions to play. We're going to have, I think, 2 or 3 of those, and as well as a neighborhood that you can set everything in and structure this kind of multiple episode arc into a little campaign that you guys can play. Like I said, we're acknowledging things, a lot like the starter packets that like 5th edition, the 5th edition starter packet is beautiful and really smart. And so we wanted something that you guys can have
Red
like
boxy.
that. Red boxy, where you get the nice maps, you get maybe some pre-made, you get some pre-made characters, you get a structure on how to make your own characters really easily, and then you take that and you just crack it open and go. You read the few pages on GM advice, get your dice, get your group, and so we want to have that, and then let us know how it was. We can't. We'll do our best to handle everyone's feedback. But we really want it because that is, like we said, we want this to be kind of open sourcey. We want this to be, yes, we got to make our intellectual copyright kind of stuff, but we want that input because this is, we can't just do this ourselves. We need people, and we also, like I said, we've got we've got a timeline, and we've got a whole universe to fill out. And so we want to work towards having other people contribute stories to us. Other people, write little things. You like cyberpunk? Yeah, absolutely. Let's do it. Collaborations
We actually
and yeah.
that actually reminds me. I wanted to reference the first collaboration of or the first collection of short stories that my brother wrote. Mostly, I was able to contribute one, which I was proud of
Yeah, it
because I'm
was
not
great.
much of a writer. But what we call the Gonzo documents, and we want to have these collections of short stories as they go along. When we keep referencing what we call Burning Chrome, which was the collection of William Gibson's first short stories, and we want to have short story collections as they go along. The beginning of every chapter in our book is starting with a short story. It's all about narrative, and I mean, we want to be fed.
Yep.
As you can tell, I might have a bit of a tech addiction behind me, but that's totally okay. I mean, we want to make a living as game designers. We are, doing moderately well ourselves as we'd like to, but game,
Yeah.
just game,
Just play. Hang out with us. Be our friends.
Yeah, I get asked a lot when I'm advising or I'm helping out at the college where I work about why are games important. And you need a safe place to learn, fail, pick yourself up, and try again. When you're testing children in the second grade to see their aptitude for what they're going to be as an adult, there aren't a lot of safe areas as children. I mean, we got to scrape our knees, in the late 80s when we were kids, fall down a tree, break an arm, deal with that type of thing. Now it feels like there isn't so much margin for error. But I also love the fact that no matter how bad your life gets, no matter how difficult things are, no matter what it is, when me and my friends and my loved ones get together and we play a game, reality gets put on hold for 3 hours. You don't have to worry about your life. You don't have to worry about your boss. You don't have to worry about getting bills paid. You don't have to worry about anything. For 3 hours, you get to be something else, experience something else, and use your imagination. And that's really, really valid and really, really important. Yeah, that's what I say. Play games and please play ours.
Yeah, absolutely. And so in the future we will have we want to have reach outs for these people to write little stories for us, write a little Gonzo story for it. It's a little little narrative, a handful of pages, write an idea. We'll take it. Maybe we'll make a zine someday. Maybe we'll do something. But the point is that there's a 7, almost 8 billion, different perspectives on the world, and we're never going to do them all ourselves. And so we want you guys, you people with the crazy stories, the punk rockers, the metalheads, all of you people out there, the video gamers, somebody who'd never pick up an RPG, play with us, hang out with us. It's easy and it's fun, and it's got a range of growth. And so I think we want different perspectives. We want inclusiveness. We want 100% people involved. And so, and that is, what I feel really passionate about, because that was, day one, we're not doing this behind closed doors. We took this to a convention as soon as we could and made friends and got input, because that's how we're going to grow. We are going to be better than that. And so
I was really proud of Colin because we actually debuted the first play test of this game ever was at Gen Con last year. It had never actually been played before, it got played on the open floor at Gen Con, which is sort of like taking a sword and going to fight Sauron with it.
Oh, people are so friendly.
People were really friendly, and it had legs, and it's great. And we're going to both be at Gen Con again this year. It's going to be really, really awesome. Gen Con, there's going to be ValorCon that my brother will be at. There's going to be the RPG Academies convention, Acadecon, which is their second year, and we're going to be at that. I'm going to try and be there with my brother as well.
Got a vendor table.
Plan. We have a vendor. We're going to have a vendor table there. I am happy and also sorry to say that we only have one slot out of all the 8 Gen Con events that we have. There is only one slot available out of all 8.
8, yeah, we filled up. It's great. People are so cool.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
We play tested it. We definitely play tested it this time.
Those nice people,
Johnny, Hannah, and Kyle, and those other 2 nice people. They were like, "Yeah, we'll play a game." I was like, "Roll some dice." And so that I think that speaks to the fact that, like I said, no diminishing returns. Does this thing work? Yeah, sure. In theory, let's go find out. Jump into the fire. And and so I think, like I said, bleeding edge of technology, and just living it. And and I think we're gonna have a lot more to come out with in the future. The idea is that we have this is Axon Punk: Overdrive. So this is the focus on the high action, high end, anime, action hero, sci-fi genre. And so we want to have, there might be the corporate edition, there might be, the Psionics edition, there might be other things like that. I think we have a core that we want to then take and build into a whole bunch of different things, maybe a video game, maybe a movie, art, things like that. And so we want to have people involved and just see what happens and just run for it and just shoot for the moon, and see what we can get. And so we want to have another thing that we're going to have is we also have, because Cameron's a photographer, we are going to have, because we're almost done. I want to do one last thing on my mind, and then I think I'm pretty good to wrap this up. But one important thing is, one, we want to have people's writing, stories, missions, all kinds of stuff. But also we want to have your ugly mugs, your beautiful faces. We want to have the representation of the community and the people who are playing our game in the art of the game. And so we're going to have, we want to have some photo shoots. We want to have some things and take that art and take those photographs, put them into Photoshop, play with them, make them cyberpunk, do cool things with them, but have that face of the community in our game, and so we're going to figure out, exactly how to kind of find the people with the faces that we want to choose. But that's something I feel really strongly about, because it's, art is hard. I'm not an artist, but I think this is a beautiful idea, and I think it's a great idea to have the faces of cool, diverse people. We don't have to have some artist who is like, yeah, I can only do, an hourglass figure and He-Man, or whatever. I hope you like white dudes because that's all I can draw. We are going to go out there and find some cool people. And
sorry, I'm still laughing. Is I can only draw white people.
I can only draw white people. Okay. I only use the skin tone crayon. I have one box of Crayolas, and that's it. Again, no disrespect, but there's just been, I understand there's an audience, and we can have a whole conversation about that. But
I appreciate Colin voicing some of my frustration when it comes to art. This is something that I have as the game artist. I really do feel like I'm lucky enough to have had a background in photography. That was my first medium, but tons of advanced painting and drawing. That's sold very well. I've produced things for Oh, wow, I could put my resume up, but let's just not worry about that. It's important to represent the art in the appropriate way it should be, and I feel like there should be a wide expanse, a wide breadth, width and breadth of humanity and just representation. A nice
Yes.
thing. Yeah, it's not just transhuman, it's not just AI, it's cultural, multicultural. Colin and I are lucky to have, before we were 15, be on the other side of the world. I've been lucky to go all around the world. And Colin's been up and down this continent like you wouldn't believe. Uh, we're just
Both North and South America. Yeah, I like yep, there's a lot of cool stuff.
we're very, very privileged and very, very
We're
lucky.
very lucky, and we take that and we just learn from it, and we roll with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, that's why we're recording these things. That's why we're being upfront about these things. But we learn from people and we credit them. And so, and that's how we move forward, because we're not here to use people. We're here to learn from people and to work with people. And so
people are cool.
People are great. We'll deal with them. Some people are assholes.
We both really, really like people. That is one thing, is that we're both we're introverted extroverts, or extroverted introverts, one of the other. I don't know. We tend to be fairly inverted and go back to our cave and do our art or do our writing. Brood as the Batman should. But we really, really enjoy people. No matter how difficult life has been for either of us, at a certain point, I don't think we ever really truly gave up hope or love for humanity.
Yeah.
Even though it's a dystopian future, it's not the brightest future that we're portraying. But just like, Canadian music or Canadian black metal music or Rush or different things like that, one of my favorite bands, there's always this nice hope that just, I don't know if it's just us culturally, our upbringing, me and Colin together, but hope and strength are very, very important to us, and conveying that to people, and empowerment. So that's empowerment in our game.
Yeah,
so that's empower the player.
Exactly. Thank you. Perfectly said. Well said. And so that's our game.
Yeah.
So stick around, and that's again Axon Punk Overdrive. More Axon Punk stuff. I didn't even say it at the beginning, I don't think. We're the Wrong Brothers. That's the name of what are going to be our gaming company. It's a reference to many things, but a reference to the Wright brothers, reference to the Wong family name, and many different other things. But stick around, follow us on Twitter, on Facebook. We've got a group. We're gonna get a page up soon.
We have our YouTube as well, which
exactly. And it's all under the name Axon Punk. Nobody else has ever used that name before. And so we get to steal everything. We've got axonpunk.com, baby.
and we're working on that. There's a little bit of a splash page up right now. And we're building that as it goes. But we're actually going through social media most at this point. So it's Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube are our, triangle of input as it is. And come see us physically.
I'm in Chicago. Cool, Cameron's in Dallas. We got, there's a lot of things close to us. I love the Chicago community, and there's a whole lot of there's so much gaming going on in Dallas too nowadays with Gearbox and all that kind of stuff. So that's us.
Yeah. All right.
We'll see you around.
Yeah. Hopefully we'll see you at a convention soon.
Absolutely. We're friendly. We're going to be the ones smiling with. All right, we got to stop.
We're nerdy. You'll love us. We'll have fun. We'll love you too.
This has been good. Okay.
This has been good.
And stop. I guess I can hit
I
Yeah,
guess
I'll
you can.
hit. Yeah, I'll hit stop broadcast.
Yeah. Stop